Let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks because what they have done since the last offseason. The reason why I'm bringing up this trade because this is how things started turning around for the Hawks. I know they didn't do well this year because they had injuries to Jalen Johnson. They got to the play-in and lost again. But here's what happened. It felt like Atlanta is now heading towards a good direction with Trae Young on the roster. You add DeJounte Murray, and it felt like a lot of redundancy between those two guys where they both need the ball. And you brought in a guy like Dyson Daniels, one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. I think he's the best at his position. And you acquired two future first round draft picks. We'll talk about the draft capital later. You also go into this offseason, you address two other needs. You bring in shooting, Luke Kennard off the bench, who is a sharp shooter, Nikhil Alexander Walker. This move was fantastic because now all of a sudden, Atlanta has multiple switchability with two perennial defenders and Dyson Daniels and Nikhil Alexander Walker. Now, Alexander Walker shoots better from the three at 36% on his career, and he scores in bunches off the bench. Great move. I think what Atlanta is doing is really, really good. And then you take a chance on Kristaps Porzingis. You only gave up George Niang in a second-round draft pick. All of a sudden, the Atlanta Hawks, to me, look like a top 5, top 4 team in the Eastern Conference because of the versatility they have in this roster. You still have Zachary Ricochet, who could be a really solid contributor, or you build up his value and you get somebody else on the Atlanta Hawks because maybe you have too much redundancy with him and Jalen Johnson because people still expect, like myself, Jalen Johnson is going to take that all-star leap. Last year, Jalen Johnson, before he got hurt, he was at 19 points a night, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 50% from the field. He's only 23 years old. So if he takes a leap and Zachary Ricochet takes a leap, do you keep them both on the roster? I would because I like wings and they have the versatility. If another guy comes along who's an all-star caliber player and he fits the timeline of Trae Young and these other guys, you go get him. Again, Dyson Daniels, 22 years old. Luke Kennard, 29. Trae Young, he's now 26. And Kristaps, 29. So there's some vets and there's some young guys. Jalen Johnson, like I said, 23 years old. And then Nikhil Alexander Walker, he's 26. So they have a nice mix of young guys and soon-to-be vets on this team. I like where Atlanta is heading. And then you look at the draft capital. This is something I wanted to point out to you guys. Here's their own picks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 7 of their own draft picks, but check this out. They are going to swap the Pelicans or Bucks pick of next year, whatever's more favorable. So let's just say the Bucks are 10th in the draft and the Pelicans are 4th. They're going to get the Pelicans draft pick because it's more favorable. If you have the 4th pick in the draft next year, that class is supposed to be fantastic. You know, the Pelicans aren't going anywhere. The Bucks, yeah, they signed Miles Turner, but we'll see if Giannis wants to stick around because they did waive Damian Lillard. And there's reports that Giannis wasn't happy on how that situation got handled. We'll see how that all plays out. But the Hawks are in a great position here. You've got young talent that can get better, and you're putting the right pieces around Trae Young. I love what Atlanta is doing. Now, does this mean they're going to win the championship? No, but they could make some noise next year in the Eastern Conference. They can make the second round or the Eastern Conference Finals if things fall their way. If Kristaps is healthy enough and he performs well in the playoffs and stays healthy, or let's say Jalen Johnson takes that next leap, all of a sudden this Hawks team is going to be a problem. Trae Young playing in New York is not afraid. He cooked them in the playoffs when he went there. No disrespect to the Knicks. This team is going to be scary. And I like what I'm seeing. They got depth. They've got really good perimeter defenders. And they added some really great pieces. Now, I understand Kristaps' health is a very big concern. But it's not a huge concern in my opinion because I think his contract ends in 2 seasons. So if it doesn't work out, you just say goodbye to him and you retool at the big man position. But you've got Zachary Ricochet, who you're still developing, Jalen Johnson. So you're trying to see which pieces are going to work out around Trae Young. But I like their perimeter defense. I like the wings and the depth they offer. And I think Atlanta is only getting started. Then you have all this draft capital. You're like, man, the Hawks are doing something here. And they're heading in a direction. That's what was so frustrating about watching the Hawks. It felt like, you know, they were in the play in the 8th seed after they made the Eastern Conference Finals. It felt like they were heading in no man's land. All of a sudden, you move off Murray, you bring in Dyson Daniels. It looked like a really good acquisition, and they're only getting better. What if Dyson Daniels starts shooting well from 3? He starts knocking down those shots. Now you got another problem to worry about. And Dyson averaged 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists a night, and he shot almost 50% from the field. So it wasn't terrible. And his 3-point percentage was at 34%. So if he gets at the 37, 38, my goodness, Atlanta is going to be scary. I love what this team is doing. I am intrigued by them a lot. And Hawks fans, you guys should be excited right now because you have direction. You actually have really good players and potential, guys on this roster who could help get them to a new level. Then you have draft capital. So if there's a superstar player out there, let's just say you want to move off Chris Stapps in a year because he has injuries or whatever, maybe you want to build his trade value back up and you're like, okay, we love the season Chris Stapps gave us and he's on an expiring deal. A couple teams you could pay attention to right now. I don't know if there's going to, anything happen, but the Cavs and Wolves, they are heading towards the second apron for next season. The Knicks are heading there, I think, in 2 seasons. And you see what's happening with the Celtics. They had to move off guys because they don't want to be in that second apron. You have to pay attention to that if you're the Hawks. What if a guy like Giannis becomes available? Again, what I love about the Hawks right now is they have flexibility, they have young talent, and they did a great job just rebuilding things around Trae Young. So shout out to the Hawks. I'm very excited for this regular season for them. I think they have a good chance of making some noise in the playoffs, and we'll see how this roster comes together. I believe in Snyder as a coach. I think he's a phenomenal guy. Now he has a good enough roster, and we'll see what he does with it. So it's going to be fun to see Atlanta this year. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the Hawks acquisitions, and Hawks fans, are you excited about this upcoming season? What are your expectations? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.